Hello everyone, today we're going to be doing Disputationes Metaphysicae 5 on Individuation, Section 3, whether designated matter is the principle of individuation in material substances, by Francisco Suarez. The sense of the question. What is required of a principle of individuation? This is stuff that we went over in the first two videos and the first two chapters of the book. The principle of individuation is conceptually distinct from the species. It is a positive thing. It's not just a lack of other things. And it founds the double negation of division, which is to say, for something to be unified, it has to be undivided with itself and divided with everything else that exists. Otherwise, it's not unified. Arguments in favor of matter being the principle of individuation. Number one. The principle of numerical distinction is the principle of individuation. Matter is the principle of numerical distinction. Therefore, matter is the principle of individuation. 2. What is the most incommunicable is the principle of individuation. Matter is the most incommunicable. Therefore, matter is the principle of individuation. And the primary substrate is the principle of individuation. Matter is the primary substrate, therefore matter is the principle of individuation. Then the arguments for the stated view are examined. The rejection of the first argument, which is the principle of numerical distinction, is the principle of individuation. First, this talks about the source of multiplicity, not the source of a lack of division. A lack of division with itself, that is. And also, something must be in actuality to be able to individuate, but matter is pure potency, so it's incapable of individuation. Also, one piece of matter requires something to individuate it from another piece of matter. Then a rejection of the second argument, which is about what is the most incommunicable, being the principle of individuation. The answer is simply that matter is not incommunicable in the relevant way. And as such, it's not capable of distinguishing itself from others. One piece of matter without any forms is the same as another piece of matter without any forms. That's just true. So matter is not capable of distinguishing itself from other things, like one piece of matter from another piece of matter. Then rejection of the third argument, which is that the primary substrate is the principle of individuation. The primary substrate, though, is communicable, and the principle of individuation can't be communicable. And again, it's not individual of itself. Matter requires individuation. Then many objections to the raised view are stated. Matter itself is common, which is what I keep saying. Matter requires an individuator. It's not individual of itself. Matter is communicable. Now, it's not communicable at the same time. Bob and Jim don't have numerically the same matter. However, if Bob dies and his corpse is eaten by the bird, then the bird has his matter. So the matter is communicable, which means that the matter is not something which can serve as a principle of individuation. And then finally, there's the question of quantified matter. This is matter plus quantity, or number. This is the view which is held by many scholastics, including Aquinas and Aristotle. Well, definitely Aquinas, maybe Aristotle, where quantified matter is what is the principle of individuation, not simply prime matter itself. So Suarez is going to look at three views of quantified matter. The first way of explaining designated matter is rejected. What is designated matter? That's prime matter, which is pure potency, on this view at least, is pure potency, which is informed by quantity. It's just prime matter with the form of quantity. This will provide incommunicability because of the matter being incommunicable, and it will provide division because the quantity of each piece of matter being one will be distinct from all of the other pieces of matter, which are also one. And that there's a primitive connection between this prime matter and the quantity attached to it. We have some objections. Substance is prior to quantity, so the substance can't be individuated by quantity. Next, matter is really distinct from form, but things that are really distinct from each other can't serve as individuators. You'll see that in the last video. And matter is prior to quantity and thus not individuated by quantity. Quantity requires matter to exist before it can inhere in matter, and thus the matter has to be either singular or universal before it is attached to quantity. But if it's universal, then it doesn't exist because only singular things exist, and if it's already singular before quantity attaches to it, then it doesn't require quantity as an individuator. Then Suarez notes this thing which I find incredibly interesting. This is the first time he's noted this in the book, is just unity in being. Everything has unity in the way that it has being. To exist is to exist as a single unified thing. So for each kind of existence there's a corresponding kind of unity. If you think of a species like humans, humans are, not dogs. Humans are not rocks. There is a specific unity to humans. But there's also individual unity. There's Bob and Jim, not just human. So there must be something which corresponds to this individual unity, which isn't reducible to all of the different kinds of specific unity which it has. The second way of interpreting designated matter is rejected. What's different between this and the last one? In this section, he talks about a version of the view where matter as such is indifferent to quantity. So matter kind of occupies this in-between space of not being quantified but not lacking quantity either. Matter is individuated by a potency for quantity. So it's not necessarily that matter is individuated by having a specific quantity, but each piece of matter is individuated by the possibility of certain quantities that it could possess. And then the actual quantity that everything has is determined by the efficient cause. Objections. This doesn't avoid the earlier objections. The logical order from substance to accident still apply. Both matter and quantity are still unindividuated by themselves, and their addition to each other fails to change that. And also, matter does not pre-contain quantity in any special way that other accidents are contained in matter. So there's just there just really isn't anything here which is going to help the proponent of this view. And then finally, the third way of interpreting the same view concerning designated matter. This view says that matter by itself is individual in the way that Suarez wants to say. Matter is primitively individual. And that species are multiplied by quantity. So the principle of individuation is matter as such. Matter is just individual. It's as simple as that. Quantity is not simply individual, but quantity is what allows for the multiplication of species. So matter is individual, humanity is general, and quantity allows for multiple humans. So you have this logical order from matter to quantity to human. Now, the objections are just going to be a rehashing of the earlier objections. Also, this only allows for an individuated matter, not an entire substance which is individuated, because the matter is going to be really distinct from the form, so the form can't be individuated by the matter, because, again, two things cannot be, one thing cannot be individuated by another if they are distinct things, if they're distinct parts. And then the solution to the question, which is whether designated matter is the principle of individuation, is that it's a failure as an explanation. It doesn't account for the multiplicity of angels in a species, though, that isn't something which bothered them. And finally, I don't know about this. Suarez says, he just comes out and says, this wasn't the opinion of Aquinas or Aristotle, because it doesn't work, and they wouldn't have said something that didn't work. So this just wasn't their opinion. I don't know about that. That sounds a little goofy, but maybe he's right.